For this example, we have the number of code blues as well as the number of patient days per month from April 2008 to June 2011. Now you'll notice that it's count data that we have here. So we can't use the variable or measurement data control charts, the X bar, S chart, and I chart. But what we can use, because we have an unequal area of opportunity, under the attribute or count data discrete variables column of our taxonomy of control charts, we have the U chart that we can create. And we have an unequal area of opportunity because we have a varying number of patient days in here. So that's why we're going to use the U chart. So the first thing we'll calculate out is the codes per day. So this is the number of code blues per patient day, and that's just simply the number of codes divided by the number of patient days. And now we can copy that all the way across so that we get all of our data, all of our months. And you'll notice that they're all different. And the next thing we'll calculate out is our U-bar value. And the U-bar, just so they have this for record, the U-bar is actually the number of defects or codes for all subgroups divided by the total number of observations. In all subgroups. So for us, we're going to take the sum of all of our defects, which is our codes, and we're going to divide it by the sum of all of our observations, which is our number of patient days. And here's our formula. And we get a 0.004213 and so on. And we'll just reduce the number of relevant or showing data points. Now we have the U-bar, we can go in and find out what our sigma value is. So our sigma value here is equal to the square root of our U-bar divided by n. So this is the n, though, for each day, which is our number of patient days. So as you can see here, our number of patient days changes, so our sigma is going to change. And we're going to copy that formula all the way over. The way I'm doing this is I'm hitting Control-C on the original formula, and then after I highlight all of the cells, I hit Control-D. And as you can see, I had some errors. Why is that? It's because I forgot to make the U-bar a fixed cell reference. And just so you can see it here, the sigma is equal to the square root of U-bar divided by n. And let's put these here like this in red. So now I have the fixed cell reference. Let's go back and actually copy those all over again. And now you see that we have some real values in there. And you'll notice that the sigma has changed. So think about what that's going to do to our control limits, our upper and lower control limits. So now we need to build our table that we're going to use to build our chart. So we want to get the codes per day. So we have that value here. We can just copy those. This time let's paste the values so we don't have any cell reference problems. But you see they are the same. The U-bar, that one, we're going to copy straight from over here, our value. You could just as easily type it in. We're going to hit F4 and you'll see the dollar signs pop up to indicate that that's a fixed cell reference. And we'll highlight all of these cells and copy that as well. So our U-bar stays the same. So how do we calculate out our upper control limit? The same way we've been calculating out our upper control limit. Here, we're going to take our U-bar. Remember the U-bar, think of it, that's like our mean, that's our middle line. Then we're going to add to it 3 times our sigma. And if you don't put in the closing parenthesis, it'll do it for you, or tell you that you need to do that. Then we copy that formula all the way to the end. And just looking at our values, you can see how the values have all changed. Now, we could have also taken our U-bar value here instead of putting in this line, just so you know, this row. We could have just put in a fixed cell reference here, the C24, to our U-bar over here. And then we wouldn't have needed that line. But just to be consistent, we'll go ahead and do it this way. Finally, our lower control limit, we're going to do that a little bit differently. And we're going to use the max function. And if you open up your max equals max and then the parenthesis, hit your function key, you'll see what it tells you it is. It returns the largest value in a set of values, ignores the logical context. So in the top one, we're going to go ahead and put the same thing that we already put in to our lower control limit elsewhere. And we'll put in, actually we don't put the equal sign in, it'll just be our U-bar minus 3 times the sigma. But we put a 0 in the second row, or in the second cell, and that way if we get any values, once we copy this all the way over, if we get any values of the lower control limit that is less or that are less than 0, we'll get a 0 returning instead of that lower value. Because remember, we don't want to go less than 0 on our lower control limit because the number is meaningless. So here we have it, and you can see with this data set, all of our values are less than 0. Now that we have our table filled out, the process of creating the chart itself is essentially the same as what we've done in the past. We highlight all of our chart data, go to Insert, Scatter Chart, and we select the scatter with straight lines and markers. We hit Enter, and let's move this over here. Down here, out of the way a little bit. Now, because we've done this before, I'm going to run through this a little bit quicker than normal. So we're going to hit right-click on our data. We're going to format that. We're going to get rid of our data markers, and we don't need a marker color. We're going to pick a line color. And to kind of be consistent with our line colors, we used yellow as our top line for our upper control limits. We're going to drop the size to 1.5 point. Then we skip down to our actual data line. We're going to keep the markers here using the built-in markers and leave it at 7. We'll take the marker fill, and if you remember, we used the nice dark blue for our data line. Drop that to a 1.5 point font. Go to our U-bar. our U-bar. We don't need the markers for. We're going to use a line color, solid line color of, it was the magenta-ish or the purplish color. You may have to go through and actually go to your, depending on whether you have saved and closed your Excel or not, you may have to go back in and pick the more colors option. For our lower control limit, we have no markers. We'll put in the solid line. The line for this one was the aqua bluish one, 1.5 point font line, excuse me. We'll take our data area, solid fill, select a fairly dark gray, click on our lines, solid line, pick the really dark gray or the blackish color here, and that looks like all. Oh, well, we can change our data line here also. If we click on the actual X or the horizontal axis data line, we can pick our, since that's months, if we wanted to, we could pick a major unit of 1 and we'd have every month in there. It gets a little busy. We could go in there and do it every 2 months showing up, so we can kind of get a little more fidelity in what we see in our data. And also our maximum, we don't need to have at 45. We can just make that 40. Let's make it 41. And we can hit close. Probably would have been fine with 40. Go to our layout, move our legend to the bottom, add our access titles, add a chart title, and now we're starting to look good. So our chart title for this is going to be a U-bar chart, or it can be sometimes called U-chart. You might just see U-chart. We'll call it the U-chart for now. And the ratio of code blues per patient day. Our access title is going to be ratio for the y-axis and month for the horizontal axis. If you want, you can clean up your legend a little bit, and we can actually go ahead and no, not that. Where are we? Fill. Solid fill. We can make that fill the same as we have as the background. It automatically pick that for us. And if you wanted to, you could put a nice solid border around there. Make it look nice and clean. And there's our chart. There's our U chart there. And looking at our U chart, we can see that it doesn't reveal any special causes, but it's close to test number 4. Number 4 was a special causes indicated by a trend of 6 or more values in a row, steadily increasing or decreasing. And you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I added a little bit there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this increasing area here. But it's close. And that is the U-bar chart.